Okay, thank you for meeting today. I was looking at the supporting school systems module, and it talked a lot about the liaison role and it needing to be adapted for the different clusters' needs. So I thought I might ask you a few questions about, coming from the management side.
Yep.
How does the management team find the best fit to match a SENCO with an RTLB?
So for me, within Cluster 6, obviously, I started at the beginning of the year. So a lot of those decisions were already made.
Yeah.
But for me, moving forward, in term for the idea is to review kind of the systems that we've got in place around our schools. The liaison is one of them. And a part of that consideration would be actually the school itself and the personnel in it, and the personnel that we have within Cluster 6, and seeing what their needs and demands are. So some of it would be in the sense of what is the school kind of working towards? Is the current relationship healthy within that role? And what I mean by that, we can have some of our schools that are really high users or have high expectations of the RTLB liaison role. They could be a school that has a high turnover of staff, so that you're already in that kind of groundhog day as an RTLB and as a liaison. You could have a school that's got a really tricky SENCO. So some of it, one of the main considerations for me is the RTLB's well-being in amongst all of this, to make sure that actually, is it just a school that has got a layer of challenges and they can basically, the RTLB can cope for maybe 1-2 years as liaison, and then they're kind of burnt out from it, or find challenges. So it's hearing the RTLB liaison's voice is a key component for me. But and again, then considering the actual current needs, capability of the school, and also what are the other factors internally that sit within our RTLB. So are they studying? Unfortunately, 2 of our cluster schools have had, one's a bereavement and one, the principal is currently in hospital with brain bleed.
Yeah, we still don't know what's happening with and they're quite,
And are they a high user? Are they a school that actually has a strong learning support lens, or are they a school that actually just, are their knee-jerk reaction? Because we're then considering the difficult conversations that will be happening through the RTLB liaison, or what are they strategically working towards. So there's a lot of moving parts and a lot of factors, and for me then I would have had a nearly a whole year of seeing RTLB work, hearing how you've handled situations, how you've interacted internally. Do you enjoy your school? Is there a challenge in the school that you still haven't finished working towards? And then overlaying that with the strategic direction of learning support in our schools, including obviously considering the mandate from the government to do with the maths and structured literacy. Where are they within that journey? Have they got any idea? Are they looking at Liz Kane the code, or are they looking at BSLA? Are they looking actually to RTLB to kind of be that kind of sounding board? Does the RTLB have that knowledge? Do they know how to access it? The personalities, personalities is a key one. We've got some schools that a knee-jerk reaction. Have we got an RTLB that's going to go with them and be quite knee-jerk reaction, or are they actually somebody that can pause and redirect the school back and help them think strategically, whilst considering also modelling culture responsive and strength-based practice within the case.
And the conversations, isn't it, that you have with them?
So there's lots of factors.
At Cluster 11, was there a time limit on how long you could have a liaison school for?
No, I had one for 10 years.
Oh wow, okay.
Because the school was challenging.
Yeah, and you don't want to change it if it's working.
No, and
because then it could go the other way, couldn't it? It could go,
and the challenges within that school, the school had a high expectation. So for the people that were going in, I was sat in the background to support their casework deliberately, because before I had arrived, there was RTLBs that didn't want to go into that school because they just felt exposed. And in some cases, some things were never good enough. And my relationship over the time that it was built, I could work with that school's leadership team, and I walked the talk with them. So by the time they got to that stage, it was that kind of working relationship where if I needed to champion an RTLB or support an RTLB, they were on board with it. They trusted the decisions. Whereas, you've got others that burn through SENCOs and DPs and principals, or high turnover of staff. So but no, there wasn't a time frame.
Yeah, no, that's cool. I guess you've kind of talked a little bit about it, but how do you support RTLB to have a successful relationship with the school they are liaison at?
As the cluster manager, I want to be there whenever you need me. So there's been multiple times this year that I've gone in within a hui that I've been invited into, so that way that I'm there to support, seek to understand, but also there to kind of champion you guys on and be able to actually, in some ways, I would rather be in that meeting when it might be questions that are being asked that I can preserve your relationship by giving them the negative answer that they don't want to hear. So if they're asking for lots of money or they're asking to do stuff that sits out of our funding and service agreement, I would rather preserve your relationship and protect you, and actually me be the bad guy. That's how I see it, and holding those kind of open dialogues all the time. The staff meetings that we had in term 2 around the liaison role was deliberately to start to unpack things, so that way we get a little bit of consistency. When you've got people involved, that always looks a little bit different within each school, and it's why we're going to at the beginning of term 4 review the liaison documents that we put in.
Oh, that's nice.
So in order to go, hey, look, tell us what worked, what didn't work. We'll trial it. We'll continually quite tweak things until we might get it right for a percentage of our schools, and for the other ones, we'll sit down and work it again, because it can't just be one size purely fits all. Not when you're involving so many different people, so many different communities.
Yeah, that's true. How do you manage tricky conversations?
In the sense of my role as a CM, or in the role of the liaison?
Both.
Thanks. So I always.
Because you'd also have sometimes tricky conversations with schools about RTLBs as well, if they weren't feeling like they were happy with their work, or helping someone to have a tricky conversation, those kind of things.
So for me, I always start with seeking to understand. So I need to seek to understand, and then I want to ensure from that point that I have spoken to all the relevant people that are involved, if I can do, and then actually for those people that it involves, are they comfortable about the way I would need to or can move forward? And if there's hesitation there, I need to be very, very aware of it, because it's people's working lives. You don't leave your decisions at work, you think about it over the weekend, and it can affect you in lots of different ways. So I like to hope that I'm informed when I sit down and have the challenging conversations. I've had to have challenging conversations with our schools already this year, in the sense, and had conversations with our TLBs as well and it's all done confidential. And really, it's coming from a point of support. People can find challenging conversations difficult because they're fearful that they could lose their job, or they're fearful that actually the person that's there holding that conversation with them is out to get them. And for me to be informed about the culture that was before I walked in.
Yeah, I think that's a big one, because that's why it's,
And how do I build a new culture and a new papa of what we're trying to do within our vision. And so the circumstances when there's been a challenging conversation, it's coming back to whether it's about people's casework, let's look at the information, let's look at what was done. For me, it's also reflecting and modelling that we're not perfect. I'm certainly not perfect. And even in my role as a cluster manager, that, we will make decisions that may not be perfect for every person. And it's just owning that and reflecting on it, and how do I grow and how do I evolve from it. So, but if I'm able to do that, then it should empower our TLB that actually if we drop the ball somewhere, what does that look like? And how do we try to minimise that happening in the future, or wrap support around? Is there an area for me within the strategic thing that I'm looking at of where do we need to strengthen practice? So this is why in term 3 we're doing a lot around casework and different people coming in.
So good, I love it. He's really good,
So and the SLT's coming in last week.
That was really handy. I actually could have a conversation with the parent about that.
And that's what I'm trying to do, is go, okay, if I'm looking at information that's flowing through us, and what is your knowledge set, not just yours, but everyone's, I don't want to assume that you know something, so let's start at the very beginning. And, I hear an experienced RTLB that's been here for 12 years, and when she sits here and goes, it's just reminded me to go back and look at that, or improve my practice. And that's what I love, is like we've got some excellent people in here that show us that actually a part of that moment of that ongoing improvement is key. But to go back to the difficult conversations, I always try to seek to understand, and I believe it's important for not to have knee-jerk reactions, because when we do that, people can be offended, people can get upset. The wrong information could have settled with me, and I've reacted off of it in a wrong way. And then, like I said earlier, it's making sure that the people that are involved in that situation are willing and able to move forward with whatever the decision that happens. So, yeah, I don't know if I've answered you.
No, that's good. No, very good. Even good for me to take on board. Those ones. I guess we talked a little bit about this, and you said in term 4 we're going to review it. What are your thoughts on our current liaison role job description? And do you think we probably will adapt it or add to it?
Yeah,
I think it might be
I think some of the stuff we've got to add into it would be about the responsibility of the liaison. So I'll give you an example. If a liaison's in a hui and the school are discussing the cases of another RTLB and they're saying, actually, we haven't heard from them and the case has been allocated a couple of weeks ago, or actually with X, Y and Z, I would like the liaison in a very nurturing and kind and caring way to come up, and if it was you and you came to me, hey Kieran, actually school were just asking, they haven't heard from you, is everything all right? And it's just then to go, because they're needing quicker response, I'd then go, oh okay, I need to get onto that actually, because for whatever reason, you know, expectations is a funny thing, and especially unmet expectations is where offence happens. So I think we need to put in here about the joint responsibility of the role of the liaison to keep other RTLBs informed about expectations within a school. I think is a critical one, and it shouldn't necessarily need the leadership team involved in that. I would like those robust conversations to be happening in a very safe way. There's no accusation, there's no assumptions, it's just giving them a heads up, and that's how I operated in the past, and most RTLBs went, oh thanks. And one example was when the database actually hadn't informed the RTLB of a case being allocated, so they had no idea it was there, and there was a glitch in it. 3 weeks went by, the liaison then went up to them and they went, I've got no idea what you're going on about. We looked on the database, the practice leaders could see it, the liaison could see it, didn't come up on their caseload. So they had no idea it was even there.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But again, everyone was, rather than jump into the assumption that the RTLB is just being lazy actually there was a genuine reason sat behind it. So it's if people have got information and we show it in a kind and respectful way, then people can breathe and we can sort problems out. So I think that's a good example to put in here, is that responsibility of the liaison, just to keep that information flowing as to. And if it was me, I would really want to know if the school are under the pump and the parents pressurising or whatever the reason. I'd go, actually, on my priority of things to sort out this week, even though I've got other responsibilities, I probably need to make sure that that's number one. And so
I'd be the same.
I think that needs to be highlighted in here, about having just that conversation internally as a cluster. Also keeping in here the documentation, and I know that we're going to review it, but I believe that it's helping people have a robust conversation where if you're the liaison and you've shared a document and I've filled out where I am, I believe there's accountability in that, there's joint accountability, and the liaison can check in and go, hey Kieran, you wrote that in, I don't know, week 3, it's now week 7 or 8, and you've written the same thing, what's happening? Oh well, family's gone abroad, oh sweet. You're then informed if you ever get caught out in the school and stuck, or you're able to have a conversation if that wasn't the case and the RTLB's just dropped the ball a little bit to do with the process and the speed. And there's lots of moving parts, so I think there are definitely 2 things that we need to consider in of looking at that. The assist to making referrals to other agencies, AT and ORS. I don't think that they're referrals, they are applications for support. So some of the terminology and wording in here, because
it's a little bit off. The
responsibility of referring to some other agencies, the only thing that they might be involved in referring to is for a paediatric, because ATs and ORs, we're actually a part of the data gathering process. That's our responsibility. We don't own those documents, the schools do, so we need to reword some of this.
And then only the ORs, that would be another Yeah, wouldn't just be the liaison.
No.
It would be like a case.
Yeah, and absolutely. And I suppose the key for us within this cluster is actually making sure that the RTLB liaison is either a part of the process for referring, but also if you've got a very competent Senko, I wouldn't want them to have to go through you if they're fully capable of doing the referral. That's doubling up on the work for no other benefit. You know, the children don't benefit. So, yeah, there's definitely some stuff that we need to rework in some of our terminology and making it clear because, but we can do that.
Yeah,
we can go
cool.
through that, and it'd be interesting if I was to present it to the team, what they would all think about the actual kind of what are we missing from it within our role, and what within this that we need to kind of adapt the wording to reflect it in a more accurate manner. Maybe we'll get them to do it.
Yeah, they'll tell us.
Certainly will.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. That was very, very informative.
All good.